Welcome to The Sideshow. All right, welcome to another episode of The Sideshow. And today Mark is going to be helming the episode. So Mark, why don't you tell everyone what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Today we are going to talk our way through side one of ZZ Top's Deguello. A great album with some great tunes. Really an iconic classic rock band that put out a lot of very interesting, a lot of distinctive rock and roll music. Very productive act, and today we're going to look at one of those albums and one of those sides, and we'll be listening to a little rock and roll.
This is a great album, and I would, if someone asked me, so tell me some of your favorite bands, ZZ Top would probably, it would not be one of the bands that I would throw out there. Be that as it may. I've got a fair amount of ZZ Top on compact disc, and also I have the albums of a number of different ZZ Top, albums. And while they are a band who their music is fairly simple, and their lyrics are not particularly deep, they're just a consistently great band. Because they give you what you are paying for, whether and I have never seen ZZ Top perform live, but I have spoken to a number of individuals, including yourself, who have seen them live, and by all accounts, if you're the sort of person that's going to go buy a ticket to go see ZZ Top, when you get there, you are going to get what you paid for.
You're going to get your money's worth.
And you're going to get your money's worth. And I have, now after, I have the album after this, El Loco. And after El Loco, I'll be honest, I kind of lost interest in ZZ Top, at least in terms of their new material. But I consistently listen to ZZ Top and the material that they put out up through that album. And if anyone asks me, and all that shit aside, they were big, they were popular. I mean, they were a popular band. When we'd go to rock concerts back in the day, and they'd play music over the PA when you were waiting for when ZZ Top came on, everyone was into it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Everyone was into it. If you were at a beer party and there was ZZ Top playing, people were into it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really, though, that kind of listening and hearing ZZ Top, kind of two different things. I heard a lot of ZZ Top when we were going to high school. You talked about you're at a beer party and they're playing some ZZ Top music, or you hear it in different places, like very popular music to warm up the crowd at other concerts. I didn't start really listening to ZZ Top until some of those later years that you talked about. They had a period, they call it their Sonic trilogy, where they were working with, this was the Eliminator and album, and Afterburner and Recycler. But like Gimme All Your Lovin' and Legs was some of the first music that I really started to listen to, and that brought me to really sink into some of these earlier albums that I had been hearing for years. But I didn't own a ZZ Top album at the time. Ended up going back and listening to those, purchasing those, and really, really enjoying them. One of the reasons, obviously, is, they formed in 1969. These albums are coming out, these earlier albums, before we were really listening and buying albums. It's something we kind of had to discover a little later in the game. They formed in 1969, a Texas band, Houston, Texas. It's an interesting history because pretty quickly they established their lineup of players of Billy Gibbons on guitar and vocals. Dusty Hill was their bass player, also did vocals. Those are the two ones, if you can picture ZZ Top. Their more current look is with the long beards. Those were the two with the beards. Their drummer, a man named Frank Beard, did not have a beard. But those three players, they, starting in, that formation happened in about 1970, 1971, and that same lineup stayed consistent until 2021, at the time when Dusty Hill died. They stayed the same. Those three guys stayed the same, cranking out a large number of albums, and that type of unity really kind of showed in some of the work that they were doing. They performed together well. They were great live performers. Very popular local band, and they struggled to get out of the local fame for a while, right, in what they were doing. And they ended up signing with a smaller U.S. label. It was part of the Decca family, which was a London-based thing. But so they weren't really with a big major label. And their original success came from, there was a couple local radio stations that really dug the music that ZZ Top was playing. So they were, as a Texas band, they were big, but they hadn't hit it nationally. We're going to talk about what it means to go nationwide as a part of one of these songs. But I mean, it means something to them because they struggled for a while to get out of this local type of appeal. We've talked about some other artists that hit similar roadblocks. Bob Seger was a good example, who was just huge in Michigan, in the Detroit area, but really struggled to get outside of that market. That happened here with ZZ Top early as well. But as getting a reputation as a great live band allowed them to attach and become opening acts for some very significant bands. The Doors, they were opener for in the early days. Jimi Hendrix, so that started to give them some exposure. And even though they had what would be considered a kind of a smaller record deal, they were able to launch and have some very successful albums. It just real quick, interesting note about their name. They liked some of these, especially blues artists that worked with, they had two initials in their name. B.B. King comes to mind, and there was another artist they liked called Z.Z. Hill. And they originally thought of the name Z.Z. King would be what they were going to do. They just changed that up a little bit, and since the King is on the top, ZZ Top became the name. Obviously, very memorable name. Easy one to look up in all the record guides. They're the last one. They're on the last page with what they're doing. But really started producing a lot of content. Got into basically a record a year mode. Their first album was called ZZ Top's First Album. Another easy one to remember. And then, 1972, Rio Grande Mud. 1973, an album called Tres Hombres, this is when they started to crack the nationwide type thing. Became a number 8 album, and had a song called LaGrange, which was just a really cool song. Great song, one that they would still be considered one of their greatest songs. And this launched them onto a very large, long, and successful tour that really made them nationwide, I guess is what you could say with that. And then it was, the success breeds more success. So they come out with a kind of a half studio, half live album called Fandango. And with that comes, a studio song, Tush. And then in 1976, an album called Tejas, which also charted as an album as well. So now they're starting to hit the big time. They took a hiatus of 2 years. Their drummer was experiencing some drug issues, so he was getting that addressed. And it's kind of interesting. Dusty Hill got a job at the DFW airport for 3 months during this time period because he wanted to recenter himself and feel normal again. So I don't know if he was tossing bags onto the plane or serving beer at one of the bars or whatever, but kind of an interesting kind of thought. And they came back from that hiatus, bringing some experiences and just, a freshness because of the hiatus. And it was after that they came out with this album that we're going to talk about today, Deguello. Which was also a very successful album and kind of starts to bring together a little kind of change in vision that the band was having.
Well, I have, other than some of the tracks that made it onto Greatest Hits, I've never listened to their first album and then their second album, Rio Grande Mud, in their entireties. I've got a nice vinyl a copy of Tres Hombres, and that has a gatefold, and I mean, and with this sort of Tex-Mex chili dish of some kind. I can't even remember what it is, but it's just very Texas, very borderish kind of thing, but in addition to LaGrange. And I think that the thing about LaGrange, it's one of those songs where it starts out with a more quieter, I don't think it's acoustic guitar. I think it's an electric guitar that's being played, but it's not turned up really loud. Yeah. And it's just the guitar. There's no drums in there. And then when the drums come in and the electric sort of crunchy guitar sound comes in, I mean, that's a thing.
Oh yeah.
And they did it. And there were other, there was the Waiting for the Bus, Jesus Just Left Chicago was on that. And I think they kind of hit upon their style on that album. Yes. And it's a simple, I mean, and simple, it's an uncomplicated style. Drums, bass, guitar. And they were able to just find simple things to do with their instruments. I mean, Billy Gibbon was a good guitar player. I mean, I would not call him a virtuoso guitar player, but when you're just talking straight blues, straight rock and blues, excellent guitar player. And then with a very competent rhythm section, they played well together, and they just found ways to take simple ingredients. It's like you can do a lot of different things. If you go to Germany, you can get a lot of different beers that all comply with the German purity law. Yeah.
But they're different.
But they're different.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are pretty good.
Yep.
And what are those three? Do I remember correctly? There's 3 ingredients.
I think 4, because one of them's water.
Okay. But in any case,
barley malt, hops, and yeast or something like that.
So here, what you've got drums, bass, guitar, vocals. So you got those 4, and later, some synthesizers came in, but for this album, it's basically just those 4 things: drums, bass, guitar, vocals. But the way that they combine them is good. It works. It creates a very distinctive sound. We recently did a podcast talking about U2.
Yeah,
U2 very different from ZZ Top.
Oh yeah,
in so many ways, completely different. But they were able to take drums, bass, guitar. None of them were virtuoso musicians. They found a way of combining them, along with Bono singing, that created a very compelling whole. And in their own much different, but also kind of similar ways, ZZ Top was able to do the same thing in a very different genre of music.
Sure. And they were also creatures of their environment. As I said, they spent the first part of their, as they were building on success in Texas as a Texas rock band. And that was what was around them. That was their environment. And they played it, and they worked at doing it well and creating a style that would work in there. As they began to tour, you could start to sense, as you got into like the Fandango and Tejas stage, a little bit kind of, some expanding on that style. As we start to get to this album, they were actually doing their even though they'd produced a half a dozen albums, they hadn't toured in Europe. And they go over to Europe and they start to get influenced by some of the people that they're encountering over there. They shared some studio time in London with the band Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. And they've talked about in that this was like their introduction to, look, we should do some synthesizers into this, and maybe our on-stage act should be a little more choreographed and honest to our style, but we can enhance the performance by how we conduct ourselves on stage. So this is probably the most profound influence that Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark ever had on real rock and roll. But it happened. I mean, they were open to, and we'll talk through a little bit of this album. There was other things that whether it be Dusty Hill or anyone within the band hears something, it's like, hey, can we use this somehow? They certainly were opening to expanding and building upon a style. But I'd agree 100% with you that Tres Hombres was where they established that ZZ Top style, and it became, oh yeah, that's ZZ Top. And they departed for a little bit after Deguello. Again, we get into that sonic trilogy of stuff where they really were getting more pop and synthesizer like. They came back to their roots a little bit after those three. But some of the real powerful ZZ Top came from these earlier albums, and they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2004. And you take a look at like the songs that a band plays in their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, can kind of, and LaGrange was one of the songs they performed. I mean, this was important for them. They also did a halftime show for the Super Bowl. Yeah. And in those ones, they used Tush, again, an early song, and then the song Legs, which was an incredibly commercially successful song. It's understandable why they chose that one, but they always go back to those like Tush and LaGrange as songs from those early days that were clearly important to them and clearly important to their success. And we've got a few of those on this album as well.
Fun fact, the halftime show that ZZ Top played for the Super Bowl just so happened to be, I believe, in early 1996 when the New England Patriots were defeated by the Green Bay Packers.
The Green Bay Packers. Coincidence? While we're filming this particular episode, there's a Packer game on the TV tonight. So Mike is in gear. I'll be getting there shortly. So don't mean to influence the conversation with that, but yes, that was a Packer victory in the Super Bowl.
Go Packers.
There we go. Hey, okay, let's take a look at this album. This is the Deguello album. Kind of a cool album cover. Deguello basically means to slash one's throat or to behead someone. So you've got this skull down here. You've got a little, some shots through the paper here. Just kind of an interesting album. A little simpler on the back end. Just some interesting fonts with the band members and the songs themselves. There's also an inner sleeve that shows a picture of the members of the band. They hadn't acquired the ultra long beards yet, but it was clearly coming. And then just some info on the album itself. But kind of a common style, and you can still kind of see and feel a little bit of Texas, a little bit of south of the border type feel to the artwork and the album. So that was the cover itself. Let's get into the album, and we're going to be talking side one, 5 songs that are on this side, and we're going to start right out with what I think is one of the coolest rock and roll songs ever. It's just got a sound. As I said, when this album came out and some of my early kind of exposure to ZZ Top, I really wasn't listening to them through sitting at home with albums. I was hearing them, You're hearing them at a party. You're hearing them at a bar. Wherever it is. And when I'd hear this song or hear this song played on our radio station, whatever, I always thought it's like, this is just fucking cool. And it is a song called "I Thank You." Became one of their bigger hits as a band. And let's just, before we get talking about it, let's listen to the beginning. We're going to listen to about the first minute of the song, and the way that it starts. It's important to listen to the vocals in ZZ Top. Very unique, kind of a gravelly but smooth. You'll hear what I mean by that with the vocals, and then just the guitar. You're going to hear some simple riffs, but the way that they turn from one to the next is just beautiful. So let's listen to this, and we'll talk about it on the other side. Okay, so I just, that, but you did, but you did, but you did. You can just feel the blues influence, right? From this, you can just see this old black guy sitting on a tree stump singing this song. You can just feel it. This was a cover of a Sam and Dave tune. So it had the real roots in some of this older style music, but the way that they lay it out, it sounds blues, but it sounds really fucking cool. The way that it's pushing forward, and the way that, although it's very simple, this dun 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 dun, dun that is very simple and straightforward. The way that they move between them, with the little do or the do, it just, as you listen to that goes through the entire song. It's it's such a cool song.
The a couple things. You mentioned that this is a Sam and Dave cover. The backing band for Sam and Dave, when they did their recording, were the members of Booker T and the MGs.
Mm-hmm.
And those, Steve Cropper, the bassist Duck Dunn, Booker T. Jones, those guys could lay down a groove.
Yeah.
Stuff like Green Onions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the Sam and Dave's band was the sort of thing where a groove was what you got more often than not. And when you hear the beginning of this song, you hear a groove.
Yeah.
And, when the singer comes in, I mean, you picture some guy walking down the street who is cutting a path, kind of a badass, not necessarily menacing or fucking with people, but just badass.
Yeah.
And second, just that with the guitar, that you didn't have to love me like you did, but you did. Bam.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing there with the guitar is actually the same thing that Deep Purple does in Smoke on the Water.
Mm-hmm.
You hear, bum 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 bum.
Yeah.
And what that is, that's going on the fretboard of a guitar, putting your finger and going down the neck a step.
Yeah.
Basically E G A E G BA, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And that was what gave Smoke on the Water just that that difference, that uniqueness, that individual flourish that made it different than just some more simple
Pulled you in. Yeah.
Pulled you in. And just that one thing in this song, it's funky. It keeps it in the groove. Or it deepens the groove.
Yeah,
is what it does. It deepens the groove, and this is a groove song.
Oh, and I mean, you talked about not only the musicians from Sam and Dave that performed it, but I mean, one of the co-writers of this song was Isaac Hayes, also known to be able to groove.
Yeah.
So you got some great. Bottom line is you got some great material that you're working with, but a lot of people can cover a great song and not pull it off in the way that these guys did. Again, their ability to, as a small band, right? three person band that's doing all the duty of these things, and just coming off it. Also, though, their style of vocal delivery really makes this happen as well. That to me is what the coolness of it. You've got the good music, but I mean, just the great delivery. That doesn't, though, mean that they didn't have some great guitar in here. So I want to also listen to a clip from the middle of this song where we'll hear the tail end of a chorus, but we're going to go into some guitar, and then we'll talk about that when we come back. Okay, so we hear that delivery, and so above and beyond what I think is just a cool groove, steady, beat, we can bring some guitar in as well that takes us a little off the beaten path before it brings us back to take this song out. I mean, it just ends up being the full package of a song with just kind of a neat, driving, bluesy beat. I think a very solid vocal performance that's very distinctive to the style of ZZ Top, and some great guitar laid over the top of it.
Well, and one thing that I think that ZZ Top does very well is they use relatively. I'm not suggesting that anyone can go out and play this, but they use relatively straightforward, simple guitar lines. But the guitarist uses them so effectively.
Yeah.
It's almost like the songs, if they got cluttered up with stuff that was completely different, you get some really speedy, intricate guitar player, it's almost like it wouldn't be as good. It certainly wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
And I think that not only the clip that you just played, but I think that the way that ZZ Top plays the lead guitar in a lot of their material doesn't stretch on for too long.
No.
They repeat some of the same figures sometimes, and they're relatively straightforward and simple, but they're just very effective in the context of what it is they're doing. And there was a concert at the Fillmore Auditorium in the late 60s at the Fillmore East in New York City, sometime in the late 60s. And there were three guitar players that, because there were always a lot of bands around, and they'd have like three bands on the same night. And a lot of times they'd all be known national acts, at least to some degree. But in any event, one night at the Fillmore Auditorium, there were three guitar players. And they ended up jamming together at one point. And the first one to play during the jam was Elvin Bishop. and he was one of the guitarists in the Paul Butterfield Blues Band, which was very big at that time, very blues. You know, they were a very well-known blues band. And he got up there and he just did this, you know, obviously difficult, you know, blues solo. And everyone's like, ooh, ah, you know, wow.
Yeah.
And then the second guitar player steps up. And this was Eric Clapton. Mm-hmm. And he was
also considered by some to be a decent guitar player.
I mean, he was at that time, not unlike many years later, big.
Yeah.
You know, well-known, big, regarded as one of the best guitar players in the world, blah, blah, blah. And he comes out and he's got long hair at that time and he's playing this guitar and he's like, you know, got moccasins on and he's stamping his foot and everyone, ooh, ah. Well, then the third guitar player, it's his turn. And this was B.B. King. Mm-hmm. And he's got Lucille strapped on his shoulder, and he stands there, and he just plays some simple, soulful lines, and everyone's just like, and because he blew him away.
Yeah.
And now whether that's an urban legend or whatnot, you know, or I mean, God only knows what someone who was observing this concert was under the influence of in those days.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter. The point being is that, you know, these two guys come out here and doing all this flashy shit, and then B.B. King just sort of smiles and I don't know. I've seen B.B. King.
Let me show you boys how it's done here. Yeah.
I've seen B.B. King a number of times live, and boy, I tell you, however you want to describe it, when that guy, because he doesn't play rhythm guitar, he never plays his guitar while he sings, but when he plays, and it's primarily leads, there is just something about the way he plays guitar that makes you want to move and smile.
Yeah, and I think it's a great illustration of you know what, you know, that simple type of blues based guitar can really be impactful.
Yeah, and so that was a long-winded story, and I apologize, but I think that, and I'm not saying that Billy Gibbon is B.B. King, but I'll bet you that he listened to B.B. King.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say that it's probably true that he took some lessons from B.B. King to the effect that I don't have to, you know, blaze this new trail of guitar music. I can just use simple soul and blues licks and construct them in the right way and put them in the right places and be just as effective as some more elaborate shit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a good way to describe why ZZ Top has been able to be as successful as they have without having to stretch out and do these things that other guitars have done to draw attention to themselves.
Yeah, and I'd agree that you can do simplicity so well that it's impactful, and that's really a perfect example of what they did here. You know, the song itself, a guy's thanking. What I hear in this song is a guy thanking a woman who's taking care of him, whether he deserved it or not. There's some allusions in the song that the woman's no longer with him. But just a number of things that she didn't have to do, but she did, and he's appreciative of it. So a thankful song to start us out. But as I said from the beginning, that's not what I'm really listening to. It's the way this song is presented. It's just a really cool song. Probably between this and LaGrange earlier, you know, one of my top ZZ Top songs, and really a great way to get this album and the side started.
Well, and as far as ZZ Top's lyrical content, I mean, it's not, and I don't mean to say that the lyrics to ZZ Top's songs are without meaning, but the lyrics definitely aren't the focus.
No,
it's the feel of the music and the feel, which is it's the feel of the guitar rather than the intricacy of the guitar, what we were speaking about a moment ago.
Yeah.
That makes it sound good. And so, well, there's nothing profound about the lyrics. They mean what they mean, and it's the whole ball of wax that really makes it with ZZ Top as far as what, why are they appealing? Why are they appealing? And I find them an appealing band. It's because of the whole ball of wax, and so you don't have to get hung up in the artistry of the lyrics, because that's not really the point.
And I believe you never know what's going on exactly in the head of different acts as they're getting things together. I don't think that they took their own lyrics too seriously. Again, this was a cover, but as we get into some of these other tracks, and I mean, when a band has a song called Pearl Necklace, I mean, they're not taking themselves overly seriously. They're trying to play some rock and roll, and they spent a lot more time on playing some good guitar than they did putting down some meaningful lyrics. In fact, why don't we start talking as we get to our next song, which is called "She Loves My Automobile," is the song. And I'm just going to play some from the beginning, first minute or so of the song, and then we'll talk a little bit about it.
Sounds good.
She would do anything just to slide behind the wheel. She said, what's it gonna take for you to lay your top on down? She said, what's it gonna take for you to lay your top on down? I said, honey, why don't you ask me when we hit the outskirts of town?
Okay, so She Don't Love Me. She Loved My Automobile, right, is what they're saying. Now, as I just alluded to, beforehand, ZZ Top has never, been scared to, talk about some sexual topics. I think by the time they got to Pearl Necklace and the Tube Snake Boogie, they had cast aside any desire to try to conceal what they were talking about. A little more subtle in this one, but I think that we can all agree on the fact that there are things above and beyond a man's intelligence and his sense of humor and his sensitivity that can attract women. One of them being if they got a good car. That certainly is one of them, and technically. Their abilities as a coxman, right, may also keep someone there. Now, the title of this song implies that they're talking about the car, but there's a very good chance they were talking about the other one, and potentially the only reason this girl is hanging around is for the sex this guy is giving her. And now, on the one hand, for a lot of people, especially a young teenage high school boy listening to it, I mean that's a great reason. What's the problem with that? As you get a little bit older, that can erode your security a little bit. That's the only reason that a woman is hanging around. But I mean, there's some notions in there. Well, she would do anything just to slide behind the wheel, and she's looking forward to when he's gonna lay your top on down, and that. So anyway, so having some fun with with the topic. But I hope you also heard there, though, that you've got a kind of a driving song as well with you get a little bit of horn in there, and then you get that guitar that we heard at the end of the piece as well. So not an overly serious song from a topic perspective, but a great song to listen to and take us into this album.
Well, and on the subject that you were discussing about the meaning of the lyrics and their relatively machoistic sort of asserting their cocksmanship, I guess is the term you used. I can envision like a press conference after this album was released, and some sort of uptight interviewer, asking the band and say, now when in She Loves My Automobile, you sing, she said, what's it gonna take for you to lay your top on down? And then you sing, I said, honey, why don't you ask me when we get to the outskirts of town?
Yeah.
Are you insinuating that the taking down the top of a convertible motor vehicle is a metaphor for unzipping your fly? And the band's response would be, we're not insinuating that. We're saying it outright.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. I think that's the case.
And there's a lot of back and forth in rock songs about cars and kind of that really implying gonna drive right into your tunnel type stuff that you hear in a lot of songs. I mean, and there's other parts of this. They refer she don't care if I'm stoned or sloppy drunk. You don't refer to anybody that's too drunk to drive a car as sloppy drunk. You do refer to a man who may be unable to climb into the bed and do well as a sloppy drunk. So I think they
Mark,
weren't beating around the bush that much.
Mark, are you insinuating that when they sing "Long as she got the keys" and there's a spare wheel in her trunk, that's a vibrator? Are you insinuating such a thing?
Well, it's,
what did when Bruce Springsteen sang, "All I wanna know is what it feels like in the back of your pink Cadillac"? What do you think he was talking about?
Exactly. Yes, a lot of car references. So in this, above and beyond the back and forth about the song, and again, ZZ Top gives through all their albums gives us plenty of that, and some whether it be hidden within the song or just outright said, we hear a lot of that. So if we switch from that and we take a look at the song itself, it's a good solid song, and it really it provides us the ability to move from the first song, which I think is one of their best songs in all their albums, to another one of their great songs and hits for them. The third song on this track is "I'm Bad, I'm Nationwide," which again, a lot of people, if you've heard some ZZ Top, if you listen to any classic rock radio, you've heard this song. That same type of, we've got a really kind of driving blues feel guitar, and that the vocals of there, that deep gravelly voice that you hear. And when I hear a song like this, I can't help but just envision a mechanic in an auto shop. Kind of the radio's turned up, they're listening to it while they're playing. They're wiping the grease off their hands, and they've got a cigarette coming out of their mouth. It's that kind of music. This ZZ Top was made for that type of scenario. For somebody building a house to be listening to that on the radio as they're working through the day. And I think that this low kind of gravelly, not clean and tight type lyrics, kind of just this low gravelly stuff, just brings that out in what you can kind of see and feel in listening to this music, and certainly in this song, "I'm Bad, I'm Nationwide."
Well, a couple things about "I'm Bad" and "I'm Nationwide." I think number one, this is a ZZ Top song.
Oh yeah.
You know, I Thank You was a cover, you know, of Sam and Dave cover. She Loves My Automobile is a pretty straightforward, you know, kind of 12-bar-ish, just rock and blues song. But this one, it's like, this is when ZZ Top did something that just, it sounds like ZZ Top.
Yeah.
This was a song that they sort of created for themselves and became one of their signature songs. I agree. And second, I will always have a soft spot for this song. In the early 80s, you know, when Deguello came out, I don't know if this was 79 or 80, you probably said earlier, but in any case, this was current material in the early 80s. Mm-hmm. And during summers, when I was coming back from Minnesota, where I was going to college at the time, in the early 80s, I worked for a United Van Lines agency out of Appleton, Wisconsin. And I had a great group of guys that I worked with. And one of them who I became kind of friends with, and we took some road trips out on the road, you know, moving furniture, staying at truck stops and stuff like that. And he came up with an idea for a T-shirt that he wanted to design, and it would be an illustration of the front of an International TransStar semi-tractor, which at that time was a very common cab over semi-tractor mm-hmm. that you see on the highways. And it'd be just looking at it from the front, and instead of the two halves of the windshield, it would be a set of like mirror sunglasses, kind of that mm-hmm. shape. And then above it, it would say, "I'm bad." And below it, "I'm nationwide." So, and I thought it would have sold. It would have sold.
Well, and he was buying what ZZ Top was selling. So let's listen to the beginning of the song, and then we'll get a little deeper into what we're listening to.
Well, I was rolling down the road in some cold blue steel. I had a blues man on the back and a beautician out the wheel. We're going downtown in the middle of the night. We're laughing and I'm joking and we're feeling alright. Oh, I'm bad. I'm nationwide. Yes, I'm bad.
Okay, so that was just the beginning of the song. First, you know, how we got started. First verse of the song, and I mean, this song is, look, as I was talking at the beginning, you know, I'm bad, I'm nationwide. You know, I've made it. I'm established. I'm the man. I'm the guy. Nationwide has a particular meaning to musicians. Again, even musicians that are making it and making a living as a band might not be nationwide. They're strong local acts, and that certainly was the case with ZZ Top. And you can picture them even as they're starting to put out their first couple albums and thinking, guys, we've got all the pieces here. We've got we've got a record contract. But they were not nationwide yet. And the moment that they did, that was I'm sure a big moment when you start to round that third album. They hit the national charts. So nationwide means something to these guys.
And you know, and this album, this was big. Oh, I mean, one of the songs. I mean, by this time, I was already familiar with stuff like LaGrange, mm-hmm. Tush. You know, those songs were I was familiar with. But the one that got the most attention, at least initially, or at least the one that I recall hearing first from this album, was "Cheap Sunglasses," mm-hmm. which is on side 2. And but by that time, they were big, and it might have been the tour that they did after Deguello where that was the sort of the where they became a big band.
Yeah.
On the national level, not just the AOR radio stations, but I mean, that just your average person knew who they were, knew that the album came out, this and that, and so that's definitely true. And I don't know, I already mentioned the truck stop kind of motif that I will always have for this song, but I was rolling down the road in some cold blue steel. Now, what does that mean? Does it mean a truck? Could it mean any car? It doesn't matter. It could apply to anything. You're rolling down the road. I got a blues man on the back and a beautician at the wheel. Now, I don't know what the fuck that means, but whatever it is, it sounds cool.
Yeah.
It sounds like, we're going downtown in the middle of the night. We're laughing and we're joking and feeling all right.
Yeah.
It's like, how can that be a bad thing?
Yeah. And I mean, this song has 3 different verses, and they're basically talking about 3 different guys. And they're different guys because the way that they talk about the car, as the lyrics that we heard and that Mike talked theirs, they're in some cold blue steel. The second verse talks about someone going down the highway in a new Cadillac, and the third one talks about someone moving down the road in a V8 Ford. So 3 different people, and if you take a look at this, I see that the first character who's got the bluesman in the back is a musician, somebody who's finally made it as a musician. I believe in the second part we're talking about kind of a high, a player, right, who's got a lot of women in the car. They're smoking Lucky Strikes and wearing nylons too.
Fine fox in front and 3 more in the back.
There you go. And the third one is more of got a New York brim hat and a gold tooth displayed. Probably a pimp, or successful gangster, or that type of thing. That is there. All of them, as they're going down the road, looking at these, the spoils of their successes, thinking, I'm bad and I'm nationwide. And they've got some great music that goes along with it. Let's listen to another clip now. At the end of the very first clip that I played, you heard that piano, that dun 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 dun, and that kind of serves. They use that as a break between each of the segments. So we're going to start this second segment. You'll hear that same thing, and we move into some guitar.
And before you play the clip, I think it's worth noting that piano there, I think that's the first keyboards we've heard on this album.
Yeah,
and it's relatively limited. I mean, this even though that piano is kind of an important part of this song, it's still sticking to guitar, bass, drums and vocals is what drives this music.
Absolutely. So let's listen to that, and then we'll finish off the song on the other side. Okay, so it's they've got this kind of simple, straightforward theme that's taking us through this whole song, but we take a little breather there and listen to some some rock and roll guitar, some interesting bass that kind of chugs us along there as well. Just just in some cases a pretty heavy blues rock kind of song. And again, it's ZZ Top, so that just real ultra low vocal that's that's taken us through. I think it's a great middle point in this side, but I mean one of the better ZZ Top songs.
Well, and this portion of the song is, no, as I mentioned earlier, I have not seen ZZ Top perform live, and I haven't even seen a lot of stuff like on YouTube of them performing or whatever. I just and I haven't listened to the live side of Fandango, I don't think ever. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what they're like in concert. Although I've heard, by all accounts, they are excellent live band.
Yeah, and I've seen them a couple times, and I can talk about that.
But in any case, I imagine that back at around this time, if you went to see ZZ Top, and when they played like LaGrange, Tush, the versions that they would play they wouldn't stretch out. They'd be kind of more or less comparable to the studio versions. On this portion, however, of this song, this is the sort of thing you listen to this and you imagine, in concert, they might stretch this out a little and kind of have a more intricate, maybe more complex guitar jam if they were going to play this live. And kind of this, so this is sort of this leaves some room open to do some playing, do some more extended instrumental music at this point of the song. That's what I hear.
Oh, and I think that's absolutely accurate. I saw them the first time I saw them was on their Eliminator tour. So this is in the mid '80s. I saw them in Ludwigshafen, Germany, when I stationed in Mannheim, a city right next to Ludwigshafen. Pretty standard stop for a lot of popular American groups that were coming through. And they, by that time, they had put a little bit more into their live act as far as like performance. And this is when you have, the guitar and the bass very much in sync in their movements and this type of thing. The way that they would swing the guitar was in sync. But the bottom line is they were putting a little bit more into the actual performance. So you did have some of these sections that maybe before they'd stay pretty tight and exactly true to the songs. The song sounded true, but you would have more kind of, let's extend this instrumental section a little bit. And that would give them the opportunity to kind of do some of their thing. But still, even though they were adding some things as far as, dancing and synchronization and movements, the music was right there and great to listen to. Great live act. I also saw them the first year this would have been in 2005, my first year up at Rockfest. They were the headliner, last band, last day on Sunday night. And while an incredible thunderstorm was coming in, it was really kind of interesting. So great performers.
Cool.
So that was "I'm Bad, I'm Nationwide." Again, one of ZZ Top's top songs. And then we move into from there to a song. The fourth song on the side is called "A Fool for Your Stockings," and this is much more of a we tone it down a little bit. A much kind of a slower blues kind of song. The tones that start out just very slow, kind of back and forth. In fact, let's listen to the start of this song, and then once we have a feel for it, we can talk through it. So you heard that. We start out with just kind of this again, kind of slow do 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 do, and you've got just the some I'll call it light. It's low, but just some light bass that's playing underneath it. Just kind of a tradition. Makes you can just kind of feel yourself moving back and forth a little bit as the song is playing. You've got that again, that standard, that low ZZ Top vocal that is coming in, and it almost starts. It's not quite, but the lightness of that guitar almost it reminds me a little bit of the song "Hey Joe" by Jimi Hendrix, right? Just kind of a we're not going to be jamming right here. But we've got some good guitar that is gonna come along with us here, and I even get. It's not, but I even get as we start with the lyrics a little hint of almost like some Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? That you hear again in some of his, kind of again not his jams, but that kind of lighter feel to it. So it's an interesting sound, and just kind of a I'll say low key blues kind of thing going back and forth about. This is kind of the inverse picture of "She Loves My Automobile," and someone really happy that because he is getting into her stockings is something that he's thankful for on this particular tune.
I think at the time that this album came out, people might have called this contemporary blues, because this is a blues song.
Yes.
But I think that you are right that you look at the sort of things that they're doing here as being not unlike Jimi Hendrix version of "Hey Joe," which is an old song, and he put some things on it, and so that's that was 15 years before this came out, so they're not. It's not. There's not necessarily anything new about it now, but just the kind of the texture of the sound, and kind of some of the effects on the instruments, and it's very spare. The arrangement is very straightforward, very spare. I think very effective. I think this is a great song. This is one of the songs when I first heard this album. I mean, it stuck in my mind because. Again, they're just taking very simple things and putting them together in a very compelling way. And again, you can't. It's not that you can't, but it's very difficult for some other artist to recreate the ZZ Top vocal, the feel of the vocals. And I was, up here back. This is probably about 25 years ago. We went up to Eagle River and saw a blues band at a place, and they were good workmanlike band. But I mean, this is just a bunch of local guys who get together and play blues once in a while. And they did a version of this song, and they were able to basically recreate this song instrumentally. Yeah. But it just didn't sound the same because of the vocals. I mean, the guitar players did. There were two guitar players in this band, and they were able to achieve the kind of that feel of this song guitar wise, but it didn't sound the same because of the vocals. So that's another illustration of how ZZ Top they managed to put together a pretty potent ball of wax with some relatively simple ingredients and have their own secret sauce that makes them unique and makes them the sort of band that got as big as they did.
Yeah, and you can picture that. A cover band that can sing these vocals is going to have a hard time singing anything else, convincingly, because again, they just don't have that type of sound. So this is the I think it's a good follow up to some of the, I would say, more driving and heavier songs that have led us up to this point. And it's kind of like if you get to the end of this song, right, you could see that these are all ZZ Top songs, right, that are being played, all a little bit different, in what they're doing, but they have that kind of looking backwards at some of the songs that ZZ Top had done, in line with that. Certainly unique and fresh and that type of thing, but in that style. Now, as we get to the final song, this is they do a little direction shifting here in this song, and this is a lot of people that are ZZ Top purists. Would be just fine if they'd have thrown this one in the on the floor of the cutting room, because they do some different things. It's a different sounding song. This is as they're starting to get influences on some other directions, some other types of music, and some other technology. I mean, Mike pointed out earlier, it was kind of a big deal when they brought in a keyboard to one of their songs. It made an impact. Now, when you start talking about synthesizers and other types of effects, I mean, that's a pretty big change in direction. And people that were aligned with songs like, I'm Bad, I'm Nationwide, or I Thank You, or from the other side of this album, songs like Cheap Sunglasses. The fifth song, Manic Mechanic, is kind of in a different place, right, than these. It's interesting. As I said, the band, although from deep in the heart of Texas, they were always open and listening to different sounds and effects and these types of things. And in this particular case, Billy Gibbons had watched an episode of the Phil Donahue Show, and and they'd had a guest on the Phil Donahue Show, and they didn't want to reveal their identity, so they'd shaded them, and then they distorted their voice. So, and he thought that sounded kind of cool. So he inquired with some of his technical staff, and they said, yeah, that's a pitch shifter that they're using to distort the voice. So Billy was like, hey, maybe we can do that. So on this song, they pitch shifted both the vocals and the guitar, right? On this to create just a different type of song. And it was different. Let's listen to the first minute or so of this song. It'll become pretty evident right away that this is not like any of the other songs that we've heard on this album, and then we'll pick it up after that.
All right. Okay, so not what we've been listening to up to this point. It kind of jars you, that da-na-na-na-da, right from the beginning. They do some interesting things with the vocal, especially that kind of that's right, very distinct. You can hear the ZZ Top vocals in there, that deeper type of sound, but this is clearly an experiment on the part of the band, on the part of Billy Gibbons, who wrote just about all their material that was there, to try to do something a little bit different. And it's an interesting song, but clearly a different direction than anything else on this album. And the first time I heard this song was decades ago. Back to when I very first listened to the album. And the fact that it's so different has never made it one of my, I don't think of it as even a ZZ Top song in some ways, because it's so different. And that's a kind of a closed-minded way of thinking about it. But, when I was listening to the album in preparation for doing the podcast, and this is something that I had never thought in my life, was that some parts of this song, and fans of either band might balk at this comparison, but reminded me of King Crimson.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and King Crimson is a lot more different from ZZ Top than U2.
Yeah.
They are, there are almost no similarities between the two bands. But it's just some of the intricate, the time changes, or not the time changes, but just the way the instruments play against each other and stuff is just, this doesn't have either a loose or a heavy blues feel.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't rock in the conventional sense. The lyrics, as far as I can tell, are just, some drag racer wants a mechanic to fix his car and is willing to pay a lot of money for it, but the mechanic says, well, I'm going to need a little time to get this done right, and we'll let, that's about it. And I'll tell you, an artist's willingness to expand their horizons and to try something a little different and see where it goes, that is not something that should be discouraged or condemned by fans of the artist. I mean, if when you go to see them in concert, as long as they throw in some of their hits, and they're good and they're classic material, if you gotta endure some new stuff, maybe it'll give you a chance to go to the bathroom and something like that.
Yeah.
But sometimes those are the things that lead to in a direction that ends up working out good for the band and the audience.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's the case with this particular song in ZZ Top, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's to the band's credit that they're like, let's try something a little different.
Exactly. I agree. I agree 100%. It's by trying new things that you get the really great stuff. Now, not everything that's new ends up being great or good or in any way. And this song, again, if you take it out of context and just kind of listen to, because I agree with you, there's some parts of this that are interesting and kind of fold together well. It's, if anything, it's just a little jolting, the way musically that it kind of dives right in with a hecticness to it that, especially right after you kind of listen to, just a very smooth blues song in A Fool for Your Stockings into this. I find it an interesting arrangement of the songs. And, we, typically, are really looking at, and this is a very solid side all in. It is an interesting kind of strategy that they had to lay it out in this way. So interesting song, just different from kind of the four songs that led us to it.
Well, and this is going to sound like more of a criticism than it is intended to be, but this is one of those songs where when you're playing album sides, and this one comes on as the final track on the side, sometimes it gives the listeners a chance to pick the second side or the next side you're going to listen to before this one is over.
Exactly.
It's like, so what are we going to listen to next?
Yeah. Exactly. On the same token, though, right? It is an unusual song. It's a band that is trying to work with a new technology that isn't overly present in a lot of music up to that point, anyway. Right, some of the synthesizer and shifting type stuff and that type of experimentation, and so it's an interesting listen from that perspective. It's also fair to say that I feel the other four songs on this were better and better representative of ZZ Top and certainly of this particular album. So, we had two just really big ZZ Top type hits, the first one and the third one. In between there, we had kind of an interesting love of the automobile, and then just we kind of settled in with a really smooth kind of, contemporary blues type song. So we finish it up with Manic Mechanic, and still, though, those five songs together, I think create a great great listening experience, great side, and just a great album for this band.
Well, here's maybe the best way to describe, my final comment on Manic Mechanic. When I'm thinking of a side to do for this podcast, and I'll go back and I'll take a look at the track list for something that I haven't listened to in a long time, but that back in the day was in heavy rotation and whatnot. And there are some sides or some albums that I remember listening to and like, oh, there's got to be one of those sides off of whatever. And I'll check it out. And there'll be one or two songs that are just not sufficiently not up to standard that it'll be a deal breaker. Yeah. And it's like, no, that's not sideshow material.
Yeah.
Because of that. And this song there's just more to chew on with this song. Yeah. And it is not a deal breaker. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I would agree. I use the same kind of thought process in looking at these. I mean, a great side, you can't have any just complete throwaways. And first of all, the fact that it is something new and different that they were trying, just the fact that it's different from what you might have been feeling making your way through this album does not make it a throwaway song, or in your terminology, certainly not a deal breaker. So for people that haven't heard it, you should listen to it, right? In this. You might feel a little out of flow with everything else that's been going on, but listening to new music is how we find the new good artists, and that's what we certainly like to do. So again, a great band. This is a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band. Went on, and I feel the real strength of their catalog was in the albums right around this time period, right from Tres Hombres to here. Was just a really solid period for them. Certainly something that they look back at as being important for them. So that, and a good album to represent that, and a great side to talk about, Mike.
I agree. I mean, ZZ Top is a if you were going to have a comprehensive discussion of classic rock, ZZ Top would have to be a part of it. Oh, and yeah. I agree with that. And I also agree with you. People could debate that the breadth of classic rock doesn't necessarily, might be a little bit more discriminating that. But when we're talking about, WAPL, AOR style classic rock, like we listened to, when we were in high school, I mean, ZZ Top was a necessary part of that whole calculus. In my opinion,
as it was the tunes playing at the beer parties that we were attending at the same time.
And I also agree with you that this really started out. I don't know. I don't think Renaissance is the right word when you're talking about ZZ Top, but this album, El Loco, which is right after that, with double entendres aside. Tube Snake Boogie and Pearl Necklace, those were big songs.
Oh yeah.
On the radio, and then next thing you know, Legs comes out on one of the subsequent albums, and they were this really started their nationwide hardcore ZZ Top upward trajectory, and for a band that is necessarily in the classic rock canon, and this side captures them at just the right time.
Absolutely. And great conversation, Mike.
All right. Well, Mark, we will talk to you next time, and in the meantime, go Packers.
Go Packers.